Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got quite a stack of sources that paint a picture of a really tense global landscape. We're connecting the dots between vulnerability, exploitation, and, well, the search for opportunity.
That's right. We're aiming to look past just the headlines, to see the systems actually at play, how economic pressure over here might drive exploitation and movement way over there.
Yeah, and the stories we have today, they really span the globe. We're talking mercenary recruitment, academic ghostwriting, even major policy shifts affecting migrants.
It's a wide net. And to kick things off, maybe just set the stage. Think about two totally different global events happening right now. They kind of frame the breadth of what we're seeing.
Good idea. So first, you've got some high-level geopolitics. U.S. officials are meeting EU partners in Athens. They're discussing this thing called the vertical corridor. Yeah. Big energy diplomacy stuff.
And the vertical corridor, it's strategically really important. It's basically a pipeline plan, north-south, linking Greece up through Central and Eastern Europe, including Ukraine.
Right. Aiming to phase out Russian gas.
Exactly. Diversify supply and also, leverage the U.S. being the world's top LNG exporter now. It's about energy, sure, but it's also shoring up security for places like Moldova, Bulgaria. Political independence, too.
Okay, so you've got that high-stakes energy maneuvering. And then at the complete other end of the spectrum, kind of low farce, almost.
Yeah. What's that?
This Miss Universe thing in Thailand. Apparently, the contestants staged a walkout because the director for Miss Universe Thailand called Miss Mexico a dumbhead publicly.
No way.
Yeah, Fatima Bosch, because she didn't post some promo content. The main Miss Universe organization later had to step in and condemn it as malicious. Just bizarre.
Wow. Okay, so high drama and low farce side by side. That really does capture the weirdness of the global moment sometimes.
It does, a snapshot of a world spinning pretty fast. But let's jump into the real core of what our sources reveal today. These global exploitation networks, it seems like deception is just replacing opportunity everywhere.
Yeah. And the starting point, sadly, often involves immediate physical risk.
Right.
Like these stories about mercenary recruitment.
Tell us about that. The South African case sounds particularly grim.
It really is. The South African government's investigating how 17 of its citizens, young men, mostly in their 20s and 30s, got tricked into fighting as mercenaries in the Russia-Ukraine war.
Tricked how?
They were lured with the promise of lucrative employment contracts. But the jobs they were promised weren't combat roles.
Okay, so bait and switch.
Exactly. And they only realized the truth once they were stuck in Ukraine's Donbas region. That's when the distress calls started coming home.
And this isn't an isolated tactic, is it? Russia's been accused of this before.
Widely, yes. Similar methods used to recruit men from places like India and Nepal. And crucially, it's not just men. Women have been targeted too.
How so?
Through social media, often. Promises of jobs in like catering or hospitality. But then they end up forced to work in drone factories. There's a specific zone mentioned, Alabuga in Tatarstan.
So it's the same playbook. Find desperate people, promise them one thing, deliver forced labor instead.
Precisely. It's a cynical, calculated exploitation of vulnerability.
And what's really chilling is seeing that exact same mechanism, that same pattern, pop up in a totally different context, digital crime. These huge cyber scam operations in Southeast Asia.
Oh, absolutely. The KK Park Scam Center in Myanmar, near Myawaddy, the details coming out of there are just horrific.
There was a raid recently.
Yeah, a major raid. And it caused this mass exodus.
Yeah.
Over 1,500 people fled across the border into Thailand. They're from 28 different countries.
1,500 people from one center.
Yes, including hundreds of Indian passport holders, Chinese, Filipinos, Vietnamese. A huge mix. They were lured there, just like the mercenaries, with promises of good jobs, tech support, customer service, that kind of thing.
But instead,
they were essentially enslaved, forced into running online scams themselves, basically turned into unwilling criminals. And the conditions, constant threats, torture, even murder if they didn't comply. It's happening in Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, these hotspots.
that scale is it's staggering. Nearly 30 countries represented among the victims. Modern slavery, really.
It really is.
Yeah.
High-tech slavery. And, if we follow this thread of exploiting economic vulnerability, we can shift from this, like, outright criminal trafficking to something maybe quieter, but just as disturbing in its own way. Intellectual exploitation.
Okay, that feels like a big jump from physical danger and forced crime to, what, academic work? How do the sources connect those?
Is the underlying pressure, right? The lack of legitimate options. We're talking about this multi-billion-dollar industry of what researchers call shadow scholars.
Shadow scholars. Contract cheating, basically.
Exactly. And the research we looked at, particularly by Patricia Kingori, really zooms in on Nairobi, Kenya, as a major global hub for this.
A hub? How big are we talking?
The estimates are kind of mind-blowing. Maybe around 40,000 highly educated but underemployed young Kenyans are ghostwriting academic work.
40,000. Wow. Okay, that completely reframes the whole essay mill idea for me. And what kind of work are they doing?
Everything, from basic undergraduate essays right up to full PhD dissertations.
Yeah.
And the biggest market, the main source of business, is students in the global north, especially the U.S.
And it's hidden.
Pretty much. If you look at online freelance platforms, something like 70% of the Kenyan workforce in this area is just listed under, the euphemism writing and translation.
So what does Kingori's research say this tells us? Beyond just, students cheating.
Well, she argues it's not just a cheating scandal. It's a symptom of something much bigger, more systemic. It's about how we value ideas, how we value people, and, crucially, where we think knowledge comes from. Meaning, shadow scholars aren't new. Historically, you had marginalized groups, women, migrants, academics, excluded for various reasons, doing unrecognized intellectual labor. Now you see these incredibly bright, highly skilled young Africans filling that invisible role on a massive scale.
But the part I found really striking in the source was this sense of empathy. The Kenyan writers felt empathy for the students they were writing for. That seems counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it? But yeah, they didn't just see the northern students as lazy or dishonest. They actually felt a kind of kinship.
Oh.
They saw both sides as being sort of sold the same broken promise. The work hard, study hard, and you'll succeed. Social contract.
And I feel both of them just differently.
Exactly. The students in the north are drowning in debt, often working jobs while studying just to survive, which, ironically, funds the hiring of these ghostwriters.
See the connection.
And meanwhile, the Kenyan writers have the education, the skills, but visa restrictions, systemic biases, lack of local opportunity. It all prevents them from using their qualifications internationally in a legitimate way. So they're forced to sell their brainpower cheap locally.
So the high cost of education and living in the global north is directly funding the exploitation of intellectual talent in the global south. That's quite a feedback loop.
It is. And adding insult to injury is the invisibility.
Yeah.
Kingori points out that people often assume ghostwriters must be like unemployed academics in the US or UK.
They can't picture young Africans doing PhD-level work.
Exactly. It speaks volumes about ingrained assumptions about where expertise resides, doesn't it? It confirms this persistent global bias.
So if the shadow scholars show how potential gets hidden for profit, let's pivot to how human safety can sometimes be politically discarded.
A sharp turn, but connected by vulnerability. We need to talk about the U.S. decision on temporary protected status, TPS, for South Sudanese nationals.
Right, that's ending soon, January 5th. Can you just quickly remind us what TPS actually means for the people who have it?
Yeah, TPS is really critical. It's a temporary legal status granted when conditions back home, war, disaster, something extraordinary make it unsafe for people to return.
So it provides legal status and work permits.
Exactly. Since 2011, around 232 South Sudanese nationals have had that protection in the U.S. Losing TPS means losing legal status, losing the right to work legally. It's a huge deal for them.
And the official reason from USCIS, the immigration agency, is that South Sudan, well, it no longer meets the criteria, that the armed conflict isn't a serious threat anymore.
That's the official line, yes. But when you look at the reality on the ground, well, it looks pretty fragile.
Fragile how? South Sudan's had conflict for years, hasn't it?
On and off since independence, yeah. The big civil war starting in 2013 killed hundreds of thousands, displaced nearly half the population. There was a peace deal in 2018.
But it's shaky.
Very. Observers are warning it's unraveling. There was the recent arrest of the vice president, Riek Machar. Political tensions are high.
And the UN just warned about this too, right? Last week.
They did. The UN Commission on Human Rights there warned specifically about political power struggles, ethnic tensions, local grievances, all threatening a slide back into full-scale fighting.
Okay, so that context makes the timing of the U.S. ending TPS seem alarming, to say the least, for those 232 people.
It certainly raises serious questions about the safety of return right now. It highlights the immense pressure political instability abroad puts on these limited safety nets in more stable countries.
And the policy itself, It offers some incentives for people to leave, doesn't it? A plane ticket, a cash bonus.
Yeah, there's this offer. If they report their departure using a specific CBP mobile app, they get a complimentary plane ticket, a $1,000 exit bonus, and potential future opportunities for legal immigration.
How should we read that? Is it humanitarian assistance or just
No.
logistics?
Well, given the timing and the broader context, this isn't happening in isolation. TPS has also recently ended for nationals from Cameroon, Haiti, Nepal.
Ah, so it's part of a pattern.
It seems to be. So the incentives read less like pure humanitarian aid and maybe more like a way to expedite compliance with the termination policy, a
Mm.
political signal about shifting priorities.
Okay, so we've covered immense pressure, people driven into dangerous mercenary work, trapped in digital slavery, potentially losing legal status and facing return to unstable homes. It's pretty bleak. But you mentioned our sources also had a moment of hope.
They did. A genuinely positive story that cuts against this grain. It's the election of Zoranan Mamdani as mayor of New York City.
Ah, yes, he's Kampala-born, right,
Yeah.
and of Indian origin.
That's him. He's 34, became the city's first Muslim mayor, first of South Asian heritage. And the reaction, especially back in East Africa, was apparently quite powerful.
How so?
In Uganda, the reports say people reacted with joy and hope. His victory was seen as a real beacon of hope, particularly because the democratic space in East Africa feels pretty stormy right now.
What's the specific context in Uganda?
Well, you've got President Museveni looking to extend his rule already 39 years into a seventh term. There's the detention of opposition figures like Kitsabesi, controversial bills. Things feel tense.
So Mamdani's win felt symbolic.
Hugely. Opposition leaders there, like Bobi Wine, publicly celebrated it. They explicitly said they hoped Uganda could borrow a leaf, let young people actually shape politics, embrace free and fair elections.
It's a powerful contrast, isn't it? Political access achieved despite origin compared to all the barriers we've discussed.
Exactly. It's a reminder that talent, ambition, potential, it exists everywhere. The tragedy is when opportunity to use that talent is blocked by geography, or worse, by authoritarian systems.
So let's try and tie these threads together. We started with South Africans tripped into war, saw Kenyans ghostwriting PhDs from Nairobi, and ended with South Sudanese migrants losing their safe haven, just as things look precarious back home.
And the connecting tissue, the key takeaway, really is that systemic pressure point, the desperate struggle for legitimate, safe opportunity, and how various systems, governmental to criminal, even academic ones, are either failing to provide it, or worse, they're actively exploiting that desperation for profit, for political gain.
It's a complex, often grim picture. So here's the final thought we want to leave you with today. Think about this contrast. You have highly educated Africans with immense intellectual capacity, ghostwriting PhDs for the global north, earning very little, their talent largely invisible. At the same time, other Africans are being told their temporary safety net is gone, potentially forcing them back into harm's way. We even see someone like Zoran Mamdani achieve incredible political success, showing potential knows no borders. So, if knowledge, talent, and ambition are clearly distributed globally, why do the benefits and the safety seem to remain so tightly controlled by geography?
Something to reflect on. We look forward to diving deeper with you again soon.